Morning, as Bob said, I teach in the engineering department here at Calvin. It's my privilege to introduce our speaker this morning, Kurt Dykema. I've known Kurt for quite a while, and he was instrumental in recruiting me to Prince Corporation, formerly Johnson Controls, in 1992. And a few years after that, Kurt left to found his own business. I always admired that. I wasn't that brave. I stayed on at Johnson Controls for 21 years until I came here to Calvin. Kurt's topic this morning is the future of water, and please help me welcome our speaker, Kurt Dykema.
Sure. Good morning. Can you hear me okay? It's good to see all your smiling faces this morning. A lot of friendly faces, familiar faces. It's good to be with you. It's great to be back at Calvin. I don't get back here as much as I should, and it's good to see the campus again and remember the time that I spent here. So a few months back, I reached out to my friend Bob Ames, and I said, "Hey Bob, some crazy stuff has been going on with me and the business and water sensors and IoT and cloud platforms." I said, "Would you just come to Holland and have a cup of coffee with me? I'd like to talk to you about this." And so he graciously agreed. To be honest, he kind of flipped the table on me. I was reaching out to Bob for him to help me, and halfway through our conversation in the coffee shop, he said, "I'd really like you to come to Calvin and tell your story." So as I thought about what to share with you, I wanted to give you some takeaways, right? I wanted to give you some value that you can take into your lives and into your businesses so here's your first nugget of wisdom. Never have coffee with Bob Ames. Okay? Never. It doesn't end well. You'll be all jacked up on espresso, and he'll ask you to do him a favor, and you'll say yes, and then a few months later you'll be standing in front of 70 people, most of whom you've never met before. So that's your first little gold nugget. Don't have coffee with Bob Ames. But thanks for giving us some of your valuable time. My hope is to share a bit about my story and this crazy journey that we've been on. This isn't a 1-year journey. This isn't a 5-year journey. This is 30 years. Okay, 30 years of reflecting and kind of connecting the dots and asking ourselves, how did we get here? But before I get into that, could we just pause just for a second and have a brief prayer with me, please? Father, Son, and Spirit, we invite you to be among us for the next few minutes. Please give me words to further your kingdom and bring glory to your name. Show us all how we can join you in your work. Amen. All right, so let's get started. Have you noticed in our culture and in media the recent focus on storytelling? Have you noticed, have you discovered in a fresh way the power and beauty of stories? I have. It's been helpful for me to think about the power of story. In our business, when we're interacting with customers, you can see the room change when a good story is being told to illustrate a point or to move the conversation in a certain way. Stories are powerful. So the presentation I've prepared for you is a loosely bound group of stories. And the only way they seem to make sense is when I stand in today and I look back. I don't know if you have the similar experience, but I found this quote several years ago from a Puritan preacher. He said, "The providence of God is like Hebrew words. It can only be read backwards." I don't know if you find that to be true. reflecting on the past, sometimes it's a lot easier to see God's hand of providence than when you're in the present trying to figure out the future. That's been true for me, and as I tell you these stories, I would just testify to you that I can now see a bit of God's hand, but when I was in it, it was much more difficult to discern. So for some strange reason, my story has become entangled with God's story of helping people get access to safe water. Story number 1, the journey begins. Graduated from Calvin in '88, went to Michigan for a master's degree. After I graduated from Michigan, I graduated in December. I don't know if any of you in the room know about this, but my first job was to come back to a place called Calvin College and teach. So I spent the first semester postgraduate as a teacher here, a professor. I was pretty young. In fact, if you would have walked into a classroom, it would have been difficult for you to discern the difference between my students and me because I was so fresh out. But I believe there was a professor at Calvin who was on sabbatical, and they said, hey, we could use your help. And at that point in time, the interview cycle was very much, the May-June. So when you graduated in December, you were out of cycle for all the companies that were recruiting. So it worked well for me. It worked well for Calvin. I spent my first semester here. But then I took a job at Prince Corporation. Okay? Prince was my first 10 years in the workplace. It was an exciting time at Prince. Prince was growing quickly. This is the tech center in Holland that had just opened when I joined the company. I was an electronics engineer. I joined the electronics group. When I joined the group, there was 14 people in the electronics group. I stayed at Prince for a decade, and when I left, there was over 200 people in that group. So a lot of change, a lot of growth, a lot of fun. When I joined the company, I believe sales were about $350 million, and when I left, sales were $856 million, and we had been acquired by Johnson Controls. I think a lot about those days and reflect on those, and there's some of my friends in the room who were with me in those days, and I tried to distill down for you 5 things that made Prince unique. So you guys can check me on this, see if I got it right. So number 1, they hired great people. Number 2, the business created a strong culture around teamwork. We felt like we were in it together. We were a team. Number 3, we developed great product that people really wanted. And the underlying principle for what caused that, you could call it innovation. But people wanted our products. Our customers in Detroit, there was pull and excitement for what we were designing and building. So great people, great culture, innovation, growth, and then operational excellence. We could build the product and sell it at a profit. Those to me are the 5 foundational things that I experienced and learned about in the first 10 years at Prince Corporation. Okay, so that's story number 1. Prince Corporation, 10 years, unique company built on biblical principles. 20 years later, now I reflect on the power of Prince through the lens of innovation excellence. I left Prince and started a company called Twisthink, and we tried to capture some of that magic from Prince. We tried to reproduce the rocket fuel that produced that growth. Innovation excellence, or an innovation engine. what we saw was that underlying that excitement in Detroit was the twisting of two different skill sets into a team. The skill of design and the skill of technology. Prince had studios of industrial designers and had a electronics team, a technology team that understood how to use electronics in the car. And when those two worked together to ideate and create new products, that's what was the seed that produced a lot of the excitement in Detroit. Prince was acquired by Johnson Controls for $1.35 billion in 1996. We would say it turns out that innovation engine was pretty valuable. And everybody probably noticed the name on the building when you came in. So, story number 2, Twisthink. This is in essence what we endeavored to build. A team, a cross-functional team. Technologists and designers working together. A small professional service. So here's my second gold nugget for you. We call it the innovation Venn diagram. It's super simple. Sometimes it's called the human-centered design lens. Super simple, super easy to understand, incredibly powerful. I use this every day. Take this with you. Use it. The beauty of it is its simplicity. So here's the way it works. Basically what this says is that a balanced innovation will have 3 characteristics. It will be desirable, red circle. It will be desirable to human beings. Desirability, number 1. Number 2, it will be technically feasible. It's very important as you try to ideate and you try to innovate that you can discern the difference between what's technically feasible and what's a research project. It's two very different things. And so when you apply this Venn diagram and you say, well, is this technically feasible to do today? Or is this a research project that's going to take years? That's an important thing to understand. And then finally, business viability. Business viability. Can you convert this into a return on investment? Can you make a profit? So simple. But we see people struggle with this all the time. Okay? So this is, again, your second piece of gold to take with it. It's not something we invented. Google human-centered design and you'll find thousands of resources. But that diagram is a great compass to help you navigate, especially in the business world. Okay? Just to unpack that a little bit further. What we see all the time, large companies, especially publicly traded companies, they lead with business viability. Their business viability sphere is oversized. They can quickly come up with a 30-page spreadsheet and analyze the financials on anything. But they underemphasize desirability and technical feasibility. Similar story. We work with startups. Startups tend to overemphasize technical feasibility. They have a new patent, they have a new invention, and they want to use it. They want to create a business around it. So they lead with or they overemphasize technical feasibility. What we practice, and what's the hardest, we think, is figuring out what is desirable to human beings. You have to go talk to them. You have to become immersed in their world in order to discern desirability. That's why it's so hard. That's, in essence, the skill of a designer. A designer is trained to empathize with the people that they're designing for. That's what's unique about that skill set, in my opinion. So desirability. Okay, so that was story number 2. Story number 1 was Prince. Story number 2 was the start of Twisthink. Here's story number 3. Early in our journey at Twisthink, we were introduced to a company in Grand Haven called Light Corporation. Light Corporation manufactures industrial light fixtures. So imagine in your mind a large warehouse or a manufacturing facility, and then picture just a sea of lights on a grid, hundreds and hundreds of them, okay? That's what Light Corp made. They came to us and said, you know, our customers have a difficult time optimizing the energy that they're using in their lights, because when they change the floor plan of their warehouse, or they change the floor plan of their manufacturing facility, the stuff going on the floor changes, but the lights are all hardwired to big switches, big contactors. And if they want to only turn lights on where they need it, they have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on electricians to bring them in and rewire the facility. So what Light Corp said was, we want a control system that will wirelessly talk to every light. We want to be able to individually talk to 1 out of 800 lights in the ceiling and control it and group it and turn it on and off based on time of day, or turn it down if there's daylight outside. We want a control system that doesn't require electricians and allows our customers to optimize energy usage. And oh, by the way, we want our customers to be able to do this from anywhere in the world where they can get a connection to the internet. Okay. Let's see if we can figure that out. So for us, that became our first project in what was then called M2M, machine to machine. Machines talking to machines through various levels of connectivity. Okay? The M2M movement, or megatrend, has now been rebranded, and it's now called IoT, the Internet of Things. Everybody with me so far? So on the left is the physical world where the lights are. We built a mesh network of radios to a gateway. The gateway is connected to the internet via cellular link. And then from the internet, then we can serve a website. And so anywhere where you have a laptop connected to the internet, you can log in, you can see the state of your lights, you can see whether they're on or off, you can make changes to the control and optimize your energy usage. So again, this is a client that pulled us into a world, an emerging world, based on a pain point that they saw with their customers. Turns out, getting this to work reliably and scaling it was not easy. It was pretty easy to buy a 4x8 sheet of plywood and screw 6 lights to it and control those. That was easy. And then we bought 4 more sheets of plywood and put 20 lights, and everything broke. Solved a bunch of problems. Then we added some more lights, got up to 100 lights, and everything broke. And then we got up to 500 lights, and everything broke. And then we got up to 1,000 lights and finally stood the thing up and got it solid. Okay? So this project pulled our team through a lot of difficult problem solving, a lot of radio mysteries. After we launched the project for our customer, we noticed that there was another market that would benefit from the technology. We were at a light show, and I was in a room like this listening to a presentation from a gentleman who worked at I think it was Edison Light and Power. And they were having they were having capacity problems, so they had a team looking at ways where they could shed load. And he put a picture of a garage, multi-level garage on the screen, and he said, look at this garage. It's 2 in the morning. There's 1,000 800-watt metal halide lights in there. The thing is lit up like a Christmas tree, and he said, there's nobody in that thing. There's no cars, there's no people. And I said, wow, we just solved all these hard problems to control lights. I bet it wouldn't be that hard to apply it to a parking garage. So we went back to our customer, Light Corporation, and we said, hey, I know you make lights for warehouses and factories. Could we license the technology back from you and use it in parking garages? And they said, sure. So we started a new business. This was business number 2. We called it Twist HDM, stands for High Density Mesh. And we integrated our technology into light fixtures, LED light fixtures that are used in parking garages. Okay? Story number 3, Twist HDM. This was 2007. Story number 4. So I told you that we were a professional service, Twisthink, a team of 10 that became a team of 20. Today we're a team of 30. We realized that we had to focus on that team culture, the thing that we saw and experienced at Prince. We had to focus on that and optimize that and manage that. And about this time, we came across this book by Pink, and we read it, and we resonated with its message. Basically, Pink's thesis is that a great team will become self-motivated if they have mastery, autonomy, and purpose. What does that mean? Okay, so mastery. Mastery means giving the team the ability to master their art, their skill. Give them the ability to go learn. Autonomy. Allow the team to do the work in a way that they want to work. Give them freedom in how they accomplish their tasks. And then purpose. Allow them to connect their work with a compelling higher purpose. Now, I don't know if Pink is a Christian, but when I read purpose, that resonated with me. And I think even in West Michigan, I think we have a bit of a different slant on what purpose means, right? And we experienced purpose when we were at Prince Corporation too. Giving back and being part of a kingdom movement, right? So I went to my colleagues after thinking about this book, and I said, I think we do a decent job at mastery. I think we do a decent job at autonomy, but we've never intentionally done anything for purpose. Let's try to intentionally weave purpose into our business. Okay? So we called this the Purpose Initiative. So for a year, we created a small team, and we benchmarked other businesses that we thought did a good job of connecting with a higher purpose. Okay? We talked to people who were former leaders at Prince Corporation and asked them, how did you do it? What were the policies? What worked? What didn't work? We studied it for a year. And after a year, we came up with this idea. We said, okay, our team does projects. We do about 150 projects a year. So we said, all right, if a team closes a project on time and on budget, we will automatically take part of the proceeds from that project and we'll put it into a giving fund. And at the end of the year, the team can choose 2 organizations that they care about, and we're going to bring those organizations in, and we're going to give them a big check, and we're going to hear about their work. So for the engineer writing firmware, he now can connect, doing a great job with firmware, to 2 organizations that he knows about and cares about. To a designer doing a sketch or doing an interview in a human-centered design project, they can connect their work to a higher purpose. So this was our purpose initiative, generation 1. Okay? Here's the crazy part. We went to our team and said, pick 2 organizations. We don't care who. Go ahead, pick. They came back and said, we want to support Vox and we want to support Waterwinds. And we looked at that and we said, what? Vox United is a ministry started in Holland. They bring safe water to people in Mozambique. Brian King is the founder. He was trying to do good work in Africa. He got some bad water and he almost died. He was literally almost dead. After recovering, he said, you know what? All this other stuff I'm doing, it's good work, but I need to focus on safe water. So Vox is all about bringing safe water to people in Mozambique. And some of our team had connected with Brian and we said, we want to help Vox. Okay, Vox. Next one was Waterwinds. They do the same thing, only in Nigeria instead of Mozambique. And I said, are you kidding me? Out of all the organizations you could choose to support, you choose 2 organizations that do the same thing? In fact, I debated with my partners. I said, you know what? This is dumb. This is dumb. We got to diversify. But we just said, no, they picked them. We got to honor that. So for the first year, Purpose Initiative, Generation 1, we did our work, and then we brought in Vox and Waterwinds, and we gave them a big check. And it was awesome. It was magic. It was great. So Purpose Initiative Year 2, we decided to try to build on that. Okay? We decided to build on that. We started to immerse ourselves in this world of safe water. This is an image that we came across. I believe the original came from an organization called Living Water International. But for us, this put the water work in context for the first time. This resonated. We've come not only to believe that there's a great need for water, but we like that it's a catalyst for hope. We like that it's the first step in bringing shalom to people. If you're struggling day to day with safe water and you're sick all the time, it's difficult for your kids even to go to school. So why would you lead with education without having safe drinking water? Does that make sense? This resonated with us because of context. It was impossible for us to decouple the work we were doing for Light Corporation and this world of water. We started to dream and think about, hey, I wonder if IoT could help in the water work. Hey, what if? What if we could sense at the wellhead? What if we could get some data through cellular or through a satellite link or through TV white space? What if we could get that data to a cloud? What if we could take that data and disseminate insights and alerts to different people trying to do this work? Could there be value there? We started dreaming a little bit, but back to the innovation Venn diagram I taught you about. What don't you do? You don't lead with the technology, right? Never. Bad idea. Bad idea. Really bad idea. Quick side story, I spent over 1.5 years building technology for a client who thought he knew what his customers wanted. I spent over $1 million. Launched the thing, and we're looking at the usage pattern. The customers didn't care. They didn't want it. Really bad idea to lead with technology. Don't do that. Okay, so where was I? Purpose Initiative Generation 2. We go to the humans. Human-centered design. Go to the humans. All right? So for version 2, we decided not to just give of financial resources. We decided to give of time and talent. We decided to apply our innovation process to this sector, the sector of water. Got to talk to the humans and find out what's going on. Okay? We created a team to reach out and talk to people. We started with web interviews and just asked a lot of questions and then tried to do a really good job of listening. After the first round of interviews, we decided to host a Water Summit Day. This is a shot of that day. We hosted it in Holland. The goal of the day was to get a bunch of folks from the water sector and to create a journey map to visualize the process from when the need for water is identified all the way to when water's flowing. Make sense? Just a timeline. Teach us about all the steps that have to happen from when a need is identified to when people have water. We had, 15 people in Holland that day, and you can see the journey map in process. What a mess. Holy cow. What a mess. Complicated. Corruption. Bribery. Arsenic. What a mess. I think it's simple just to drop a hole in the ground, right? And out comes beautiful clear water and the kids start dancing and no. No. Very complicated mess. So here's what we tried to populate that day. Along the bottom you can see kind of the stages of timeline that we found. Need identified, project emergence, alignment, project prep, well installation, operation, and maintenance. And then along the way, we tried to understand who the stakeholders are. So those are 5 discrete groups of people that are involved in the process. The water consumer, obviously, right? Water committee, local government, NGO, who's doing the work, and then the funder of the work. All very different stakeholders that need to be addressed when you do this work. Okay? So that was the Water Summit Day. That's story number 5. As we were preparing for that day, we came across this story. This was a story on the internet, and it was old at this point, several years old. And it was a story about an organization based in Manhattan called Charity Water that had won a $5 million grant from Google to do what? To build an IoT solution for the water sector. We were just dreaming about that, and now we found out that there was an organization in New York that had been given $5 million to go build that. We started calling New York, and they wouldn't return our calls. Holland who? Twist who? We kept calling. I finally got Christoph on the phone. And I said, hey, Christoph, would you come to Holland for a day? He's like, nah, I'm pretty busy. Hey, Christoph, tell you what. I'll buy your plane ticket. I'll pay for your hotel. And I'll make a nice big contribution to Charity Water. Christoph, will you come to Holland for a day? And he came. If you notice, down on the left there, Charity Water was at our event. In that room of 15 people, Christoph He was playing at a totally different level than everybody else. Everybody else in the room, how do I describe it? Everybody else in the room was resource constrained. We really want to do this, but we only have enough money to do that. We really would like this many people, but we only have that many people. We really would like to do this, but yeah, it's hard, we can't. Christoph was like, I'm just trying to scale. I want to do more, and I can't find the resources in country to do the work I want to do. And it was like black and white in the room. He was in a totally different world, and it was awesome. I loved it. I loved the positivity. He was going to make a dent. He was going to make a dent in this problem, okay? So that was the Water Summit Day. That's how we met Charity Water. Christoph, his role is the Chief Water Officer at Charity Water. What does that mean? Well, Charity Water basically is an organization that raises money. It's Christoph's job to deploy the money into projects. That's his role. He doesn't raise the money, he uses the money. The founder of the organization, his name is Scott. He's the one who focuses more on raising the money, okay? So my next story is not my story. It's Scott's story, okay? So I'd like you to hear a little bit about Scott's story. And if you haven't heard of Scott or seen any of his stuff, he's an awesome storyteller. And if you want a biblical reference, Scott has lived the life of the prodigal son. Okay? He was raised in a Christian family, and then he went to New York and went way off that path. And then he came back.
Look, thousands of people are turning up sick, and the most basic need for health isn't even met. It wasn't okay. Kids shouldn't be drinking from scummy swamps or ponds or rivers. He came here to fetch water, and a crocodile
fell into the river.
And a crocodile snatched him.
Disappeared. Not even our body was not even found.
There were so many diseases caused by bad water. Cholera, dysentery, trachoma, bilharzia, things I'd never even heard of. On top of that, I found out people weren't just drinking this filthy water, they were breaking their backs to get it. Women and girls are usually the ones responsible, often walking for hours every day. As a result, many girls never make it through school. They trade in their education and dreams to carry 40-pound jerry cans so their families can have water. Dirty water is responsible for more death in the world than all forms of violence, including war. Even if it were 1 million people, this would be a crisis. But it's not 1 million. It's 663 million people that live on our planet right now without access to clean water. That's twice the population of the United States. Nearly 1 in 10 people worldwide. Behind those statistics were real lives. People who were dying because they couldn't get clean water. And many of them were children. I began to become really interested in the water issue and who was doing something about this. How come more people weren't talking about water? I came back to New York City ready to go.
So it started with a party. It's the only thing I knew how to do. I was a nightclub promoter. So I got someone to donate a club. I threw my 31st birthday party. I got 700 people to come out. I lured them with open bar. And I charged them $20 at the door. And this time, instead of pocketing the $15,000, we took it immediately to a refugee camp in northern Uganda. We built 3 wells, we fixed 3 wells, and then we sent the photos and the GPS and the story back to those 700 people. This was a big deal. People could not believe that a charity would bother to report to them on a $20 gift, and that something actually happened with the money that they could see, that they could connect with.
700 people proved that we could make a difference, even $20 at a time. This was the beginning of Charity Water. As I'm talking about setting up a charity, I realized that so many of my friends don't trust charities. In fact, I learned that 42% of people in America alone don't trust charities. From the beginning, I was determined to do things differently, and I had a few big ideas. First, we'd handle money differently. From day one, Charity Water made a bold promise that 100% of all donations would go directly to clean water. I opened up a separate bank account for overhead, and we never touched the water money to pay for things like staff salaries, office rent, or travel expenses. We started looking for generous people with the resources to cover those overhead costs. Second, we proved each water project we funded. We put photos and GPS coordinates on Google Maps and even attached GPS trackers to drilling rigs so people could follow them. Later, we created and installed thousands of remote water sensors so we'd know that the project continued to work over time and even how much clean water was flowing. Third, we believe for the work to be sustainable, it had to be led by locals.
Water and sanitation program creates an enabling environment so that all aspects of development can take on.
In the beginning, usually a handful of people were in the office every single day. And it was funny back then because we were trying to look so professional and put together when if you just walked in the office and saw how we did what we did, we had no idea what we were doing.
Scott's wife.
And we were just making everything up as we went.
We built outdoor exhibitions, staged water walks, and designed ads that made people think differently about water. We got space on buses and taxis donated, spreading the word to everyone we could. We took over the windows of luxury retailers and created a TV commercial that ran for free to more than 20 million people. People started to take notice, and thousands began to donate.
Scott and Charity Water. That was my next story. All right, so it's quiz time. Let's apply the innovation Venn diagram to Scott's story. Did you hear it? Did you hear the insight? Did you hear how he crawled into the world of donors and said, why don't donors trust us? Did you hear him innovate on that and propose a solution to that, and how he figured and how he at the core of Charity Water, how he tried to address that? Scott applied human-centered design to the world of charities, okay? And look what happened. Last year they raised over $90 million to do water projects. They literally have outstripped the global capacity for doing this work. They can't find boots on the ground to do the work that are capable. They have the resources. That's why when Christoph was in our space at the Water Summit, he was like, I need scale. I don't need resources, I need scale. That's why he stood out. So that was a few-minute clip from a YouTube video. If you want to watch the whole thing, it's 34 minutes. Go to YouTube, do a search on Scott Harrison, and it's the story of Charity Water. And it's one of the stories I wanted to share with you today. So back to the IoT cloud platform. Here's what we started to think about. Sensors, data, cloud platforms. But what could it do for the humans? Well, we can keep track of the well identification info. We can keep track of the repair history. We can record when you drill a well and you don't find water. We can document when water's flowing and when it's not. We can document where the service parts are. We started to see all these value propositions for IoT, and Charity Water was already trying to get there. Now, I want to use careful language here. I'll put it this way. If you gave $5 million to somebody to develop a brand new product who wasn't trained in engineering or product development, what do you think will happen? That's going to be a mess. So as we started to walk alongside Charity Water and engage our team, we had a few things we had to fix. Things weren't working so well. Google's money was pretty much spent at this time, but there wasn't a viable system doing that yet either. So the first thing we did was we tapped our friends at Spin Dance in Holland and said, we need to redesign the enterprise, the IT backbone of this thing, and we need to put it on the latest technology, and we need to put it on a technology that will scale. So 18 months ago, we started that. This is what we built. This is running on Amazon Cloud. I'm not sure of the folks in the room how literate you are in the cloud and what's capable, what's possible in the cloud these days, but it is dropping, okay? If you design it the right way, this stuff will automatically scale very, very large. In other words, that infrastructure running on the cloud can easily talk to 5,000 sensors. We could add 10,000 sensors tomorrow and it would scale. We could add 100,000 sensors next year and it would scale. We could go to millions of sensors and this will scale. It's the same, think of it this way. Amazon had to figure out how to design their cloud so that they could take orders for their merchandise in February, and then when the Christmas season hit in November, automatically scale that volume of traffic and take all those orders without stuff breaking. It's the scalability of the cloud that's available now. It wasn't available 5 years ago. So the first thing we did was we redesigned Charity Water's server infrastructure. So now it's serverless, and it's on the latest technology from Amazon. Okay, that's story number 7. Story number 8. Now we're turning our attention to the sensors. This is Christoph. This is my friend Christoph.
Hey everybody, I'm Christoph from Charity Water, and I'm so glad to be sharing some of our project here with you today. We've been working with Twisthink to develop an original IoT device which will connect hand pumps around the world to the cloud so that we can gather information, analyze it, and feed it back to local mechanics who will respond quickly to any breakdowns or interruptions in services. So what we've developed over the last couple of years with the help from Google is a device which fits on this kind of hand pump, which is called the Afterdev hand pump. The second most common hand pump in the world is called the India Mark II. It's the most common hand pump in India and in 19 African countries. So that's what we're working on with Twisthink right now, is a new model to fit on another hand pump and include artificial intelligence into the analysis and management and predictability around the data that we're using. So we're super excited about using these cutting edge technologies and tools to help some of the world's most vulnerable and remote populations have access to clean and safe drinking water. Kurt's going to tell you a lot more about this amazing project.
Okay, so two big standardized open source hand pumps, Afterdev, India Mark II. Right? Everybody got it? So the Google grant was used to develop a sensor for the Afterdev. We're now fixing that and getting that working. And we're also developing a new sensor for for the India Mark II. Here's a quick shot on how these pumps work. I'm not sure if you've ever been exposed to this, so excuse me if I'm, showing you something you already know. You drill a well, get down to the water table, and then within the well there's a riser pipe, and within the riser pipe there's a rod that goes up and down. The working mechanism is all the way at the bottom. It's in orange there. It's a little cylinder. It has a series of flipper valves and seals, and so when the rod goes down it captures the water, and then when the rod goes up it's pushing up a column of water until eventually that column of water comes all the way up the top, spills out, and then flows out the spigot. 90+% of the problems of these things happen at the bottom when those seals wear out. It's a 50-cent part, but getting the part to the location and even knowing that the water has stopped flowing is the hard part. Okay? So that's how these things work. Here's a shot of the India Mark II and our new sensor. Let's see. We call this an inverted shark fin. Inverted shark fin has an array of capacitance electrodes on it where we sense the water presence or absence. So as the water dumps into that area before spilling out the spigot, we sense the water going up and down. We integrate that over time and we can get a measure of how much water has been delivered. In talking with stakeholders, what we realized is that it's really valuable to know if water is flowing or not, but what would be really great is if you could tell us when the pump is getting sick. Because when water stops flowing, the next day these folks go out to the rivers again. And that's especially dangerous if they've been drinking clean water, because their bodies adjust to clean water. They don't have that protection. And then if they go back to dirty water, they can really get sick. So, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could give them a heads up, a warning on when these pumps were getting tired? So what we've done is we said, okay, somehow we're measuring water coming out. We need to measure the human energy going into the pump, because as these things get sick, it should take more human energy to get the same amount of water, right? Make sense? Or efficiency, maybe, is a term you could use. So we said, how are we going to measure the amount of human energy going into a pump? The first thing we tried was accelerometers in our sensor, and we could sense the pumping motion. But we had to turn up the sensitivity on our accelerometer so high that if you walked next to the pump, we would detect that too. Or if a truck drove by, oh my goodness, our sensors would just go crazy. So we pivoted away from accelerometers, and what we found is that we can put a magnet on a flange, and we can put a magnetometer on our circuit board, and now we can detect that rod going up and down. And we can measure how far the rod is moving. And now we got a hook. We got a handhold in human energy being applied. So this is relatively new. We think we've cracked the nut. We think we can do at least a 2-week prediction on when the pump's going to break. And that should give them enough time to roll a maintenance team out into the bush and get to the pump before people start to get hurt. Cellular antennas, we're packaging 2 antennas on this sensor so we can look out both sides of the pump. We think we can double the range of the AfriDev. And so if there's a tower within, 10 miles or something, we should be able to pick it up. Battery powered. I told you about the water gauge. Okay, so that's the India Mark II sensor we're working on. And there's a rendering of it. Cost is about $250, and that includes 10 years of data. So step back a minute and ask the question, why even put sensors on these wells? Well, here's the reality. 30% of the wells out there are not functioning. Costs about $15,000 to build one. They stop running after an average of 11 months. And once they stop functioning, it's an average of 4 years before somebody gets back there to fix it. That's why the sensors are valuable. And if you're Charity Water and you've made the commitment to, once the water's flowing, we're not going to walk away. We're going to make sure that those people are taken care of. Then the sensors become a very powerful tool at doing maintenance well. Okay, I'm running out of time. I got to wrap this up. So you heard my stories. Prince Corporation started Twisthink, studied innovation. Remember the innovation Venn. Use it. Show your friends. Light Corporation in the world of M2M and IoT. Purpose Initiative Generation 1. Purpose Initiative Generation 2. Crossing paths with Charity Water, redesigning their cloud. Now doing sensors. So once we get this thing stood up and working well, I'll leave you with this paradigm shift. Imagine that you're Charity Water today in New York City and you have $1 million that you need to deploy for the good of people and bring them water. Today, it's basically construction management. It's find contractors in country, do a competitive bid, give them technical oversight. After they drill the well, test the water for arsenic, make sure it tastes okay, the people aren't going to drink it, and then you're done. And now you have another problem. Think about, okay, how am I going to make sure the water keeps flowing if I don't know, if I don't have somebody there all the time? So here's the paradigm shift. If this works, Charity Water will be able to change the contract. Instead of paying $15,000 for the well and having it drilled and having the pump installed, they can change the model and say, okay, I know it's $15,000 for the well. I'll pay you $20,000 and I'll give you $10,000 when the well starts to flow, and you're going to get the second $10,000 based on the data coming from the sensors. So the business contract will be results. Deliver the water. And Charity Water can step back from all the chaos of trying to design and implement all the maintenance teams. They can pay for water delivered instead of pay for maintenance teams and managing construction. You see the paradigm shift? This isn't about making a donor feel good so that they give a donation and you can log on and see your well running. A lot of people would say that, oh, that'd be really cool. Guess what? Donors don't care. They're busy. They're not going to sit down at a website and log in and go look at their well. This is about a paradigm shift and a way of getting efficiency and making a dent in this problem. Over the past 20 years, we kind of tabulated all the devices that we've connected, and we came up with 100 million devices. Being in the automotive industry, you can get to big numbers. So we like that number. So here's the thought for you to think about. What if West Michigan was responsible for creating a globally scalable IoT solution for the water sector? What if West Michigan became known as the center for sensing and IoT? And the solution wasn't just for Charity Water, it was for the whole sector. That's my dream. That's why I'm here telling you my story. It's because we need help. If we're gonna achieve that dream, we need help. We need people in the room networking with us, knocking down barriers and helping us get there. Okay? All right, I've gone too long. Let's just wrap it up here. So I told you my stories. We're starting to branch out now and offer the technology to other organizations. And we're starting to bring them in and say, hey, you're doing water work in this sector. What about data? What about connectivity? We've got a platform built for you. Use it. We're not going to charge you for it. And we're going to start to broaden out now with God's help. Okay? Thanks for letting me be here this morning and share some of my stories with you. Be glad to take a question or two.
Being familiar with and part of Rotary, where water is their mission now, it looks like, and this is great, you're going from a project paradigm to a program. But there are sensors that can measure not only flow physical, but actually biological and content. Given the difference of water in various places, even in one country, have you thought about putting in your IoT quality tests?
Yeah. We've looked at some turbidity sensors, and we've dabbled a little bit in the biological sensors. The trade-off for us is battery life. The battery life has a lot of value, and so we're very careful about trading a measurement. To take a 10-year battery life down to 2 years is not a good deal. And so we have to keep looking at the sensors, make them more efficient, figure out which ones to add first. But you're absolutely right. We have to add more sensing capability to the platform so that we can not only make sure the water's flowing, but the water's safe and the water is clear, right?
Have you looked at solar as far as for the battery? Some places are.
Yeah. Yep. We have looked at solar. It is technically feasible. The solar panel becomes an attractive thing to break and to steal. And so Charity Water said, all things considered, we want our sensor to disappear into this pump. We don't want to bring attention to it.
So focusing on the empathy-driven design aspect, how do you work with Charity Water to understand the environments where your technology will be used?
So Charity Water connects us with the organizations that are doing the work in country, and then we interview them directly and talk to the folks doing the work and managing the work and the maintenance teams. It's very difficult. There's oftentimes there's language barriers too. So yeah, it's not easy. Great question.
Do any of the local people have skin in the game too? Like, do you actually have them raise a bit of the money, or take control or authority over how it's managed and get them directly involved?
Yeah, I probably didn't explain context really good, but I think Charity Water has done something like 44,000 water projects now. So these types of wells are just one of a whole portfolio of types of solutions that they deploy, and a lot of times there's water committees involved. I don't know what percentage of their projects involve actually having the residents make some type of monetary donation so that they have money to repair the wells, but that's all part of the portfolio of projects that they do. It typically doesn't work really well just to come in and give a gift and then walk away. So yeah, you're right.
Kurt, the technology with 44,000 wells already installed by Charity Water, do do you end up taking this technology and going back into those 44,000 wells, or is this a technology that you use for new wells being installed?
It probably doesn't make financial sense to roll a truck just to install the sensor, but the idea is that whenever you go and recover a well, to bring a sensor along and add it to it. Yeah, so they're not just being installed on new wells, they're being retrofitted as maintenance goes out too.
Kurt, is this initiative for Twisthink a nonprofit? I mean, is this charity for you? And is the rest of your business funding this, or is this become a profit center for you?
Great question. Thanks for asking that. How do I best? It's a mix. Charity Water has learned the hard way that when they engage with partners and vendors, and their vendors do it because they want to help and they want to do it at a discounted rate, that they get the bottom of the barrel. So Charity Water as an organization said, no, we're going to engage with Twisthink Design Services in a typical business relationship. So these are for-profit projects, the sensor project. We're also connecting to Charity Water to our purpose initiative. So it's like we do a bunch of work and we charge them for it and we make a profit, but then we end up giving all the profit away through the purpose initiative. So it's this weird mix. I don't know how to do it any better. But it's a business relationship, but the business is also bought into their mission and trying to help them with their mission too. Is that clear? Or?
Yeah, similar topic. You finished saying there's a lot of work, you need help. So how are you socializing these problems and getting more engineering resources into it? So it's a business transaction. I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to help in this capacity. How do you see some of that game changing too? A lot of smart people coming to help solve your problems.
Remember when Scott innovated and he separated the bank accounts? People are passionate about and giving to water projects. They can see their work done. Technology development, not so much. Technology development is in that other donor base where people don't, just like people don't want to pay for office space, they don't want to pay for engineering of a thing. So Charity Water really needs help multiplying the giving focused on the technology. I guess we also need help with test sites. We need wells and pumps running with people using them so that we can put our equipment on it and get that raw data to feed our algorithms. So I guess those would be the two ways that I would socialize a request for help. Engage with Charity Water, say I want to help fund the technology development. And then secondly, if you want to help us get data, we need access to functional hand pumps in West Michigan so that our engineers can get hands-on and work with the sensors. Oh yeah. I brought you a gift. I bought a box full of Scott's book. It's called Thirst. So I don't have enough for everybody, but there's a box full of them on your way out. If you're interested in reading his book, just grab one. It's my gift to you.
I have one more question, and I'll use this mic. This all started as part of an initiative in your company to increase the sense of purpose among your employees. And I know you guys are real thoughtful about those things and probably are even measuring some of that. Can you talk a little bit about what kind of impact this has had, both the program as a whole, but then specifically your involvement with water projects?
Yeah. Wow. Measuring the degree of purpose in your business, I challenge you to come up with a KPI and measure that. I would say that the health of our team and the health of our culture has no doubt been benefited from intentionality with purpose. We do an anonymous survey every year of our team, and we ask questions, open-ended questions on this topic, and try to discern their feedback. And we're confident we're heading in the right direction. And the business has been good. God's been blessing us. We've, like I said, we're up to 30 people. Top line sales has been growing at over 30% a year for the past 3 years. So we're going to need some new office space. Kurt, help us out with that. And we'll keep going. So who knows what God has planned. We're excited to find what the future holds with this whole water initiative thing too. Who knows what will happen.
All right, let's thank Kurt again, shall we?